Hi, Srinath, and hi, everyone who is watching this video. So, I'm here with Srinath, technical architect in S4HANA, and myself, who has a couple of years of experience in S4HANA, ECC. I mean, I've been in SAP for the last 20 years. So, in this podcast, we were thinking to do a session on ECC to S4HANA migration and the approaches that companies take and discuss the pros and cons of greenfield versus brownfield implementation. So, uh, in let me explain briefly what is brownfield implementation and what is greenfield implementation, and then we can start discussing with Srinath and the approaches we take. So, brownfield implementation is about upgrading the existing ECC system to S4 HANA while retaining existing processes and customizations. So, you're not replacing completely your new system; you are upgrading it. Okay, and greenfield, in summary, it's building a new system from scratch. So you have a full greenfield with you, and you are implementing the S4 HANA system. So different companies use different approaches. Now here we will discuss which approach, what is the definition of each implementation, and what are the pros and cons of it. Okay, maybe I'll give it to Srinath to speak a little bit about brownfield, and then we greenfield and pros and cons.
Sure. Thank you so much for that introduction for us. So, as you said, there are pros and cons for brown and greenfield implementation. So, I'll start with the pros for the brownfield implementation.
Yeah,
The
sure.
very first thing customer would look for when they're trying to go for an S4 upgrade is how cost effective they can do this, conversion from ECC to S4. For that factor, brownfield will help the customer to, reuse their existing processes, configurations, and customizations. That will save time and money for them. Because in greenfield, if we have to do that, we have to hire consultants, set up the blueprint, and make sure all that blueprints are aligned for the business process. So the cost effectiveness of brownfield is more efficient than the greenfield implementation. The second aspect of the second factor that would be a pro for the brownfield implementation is the implementation time, the time it takes for implementing this solution. So brownfield, since we are going to adopt most of the existing business processes and configurations and customizations, we are going to run this migration faster than a greenfield. And then obviously with reduced changes, you will also have a reduced change management control. So users can use their existing change control process, CCB process, which will minimize the resistance, and no need to have any extensive training for them to do any change request. And the other other important aspect, but not a critical one, is you can still hold on to your historical data. You can still preserve it, either through form of archiving, or you can still have it in the new S4 database itself. And with respect to business continuity, you can still continue with your business without having to train your users for the new business processes, because you are going to adapt most of your business processes from your existing ECC setup. And same goes for your Z programs. So in case if you have any Z programs, you can just do a lift and shift from your existing system to your S4 system. You need to be careful with only one thing: is there are some tables or standard tables which got decommissioned, and in spite of that, we have to use the new tables. For example, we have MSEC MKPF, which is a table for material documents, and that table has been moved to MAC Docker. And there is one more table on the reporting side, which is BSEC and BKPF, that data has been moved to AC DOCA.
Yeah,
And
so I think in the later discussion we might just touch base a little bit on run through of steps when developing a bespoke application movement from ECC to S4 HANA. So we
right,
can touch that. So based on what you've explained, it looks like the brownfield implementation is also shorter in implementation, or I always think because I've done brownfield and greenfield both. Yeah.
okay,
Brownfield, the challenges, I mean, we'll discuss obviously the concept. The challenges in brownfield is that you have to make sure that you have accurately listed down all the processes. Because if
yes,
one thing goes wrong while you are doing the migration, then it's actually a rework.
right.
So, so do you want to add anything on that to suggest what are the things that we should consider, like
Uh,
the,
Before, before going for brownfield, so we
yeah,
need to
yeah,
consider there are some cons going for brownfield. I'll list down a few
yeah,
of them.
let's discuss the cons and we'll
Yeah.
cover that.
So the first thing will be, let's say you have an existing process which is not that efficient in your ECC system itself. Like you have a lot of manual intervention. So if you're trying to bring that existing process, inefficient process to your to your
Hmm.
new landscape, then obviously you're going to have the same trouble there also. And then there could be chances that some customizations are outdated when it comes to S4 because
Hmm.
those customizations might have been replaced with with different business functions or switches. So you need to be very careful on what you're trying to bring to your uh,
Yeah.
new landscape, and that will impact the business processes also. So it needs to be thoroughly analyzed before we do things. And then
Hmm.
if we plan to bring the old processes exactly as is to the S4 landscape, you may end up not doing any optimizations on those processes. Like if you want to adapt new process for your
Hmm.
existing process, then it will be kind of like doing the whole process from scratch, right? Design
Yeah,
the whole
yeah,
business
yeah.
process.
Because I think you're right. Because I was part of a program where they were doing all the fit to standard workshops. So in the fit
Yes.
to standard workshops, there are 5 or 6 different units, different countries who
Hmm.
had their own independent developments and customizations. And
Right.
with S4 HANA workshops, they were all trying to understand in the workshops how their different processes can be made into fit to standard with S4 HANA, like everyone uses a common solution. But it was
Exactly.
so challenging that
Yeah.
everyone, and the challenge is not just about the technical change, the challenge is also about the people management, the changes. Like they're so much used to the current processes. So that's one thing that we will have to consider when doing the upgrade, that how how we adopt with all the different business units that are using different customizations, different development. So when you're doing the mapping exercise of converting existing customizations into new one, you have to consider all of them. And then
Exactly.
I remember that we go through the list and we see that this is now met with S4 HANA, so we don't have to continue with the development. So those sort of exercise. So it's a lengthy process. Yeah.
Right. And also there is one critical thing that I want to mention is you may have, if you're bringing your old business process, and let's say it is completely customized or heavily customized using custom codes, then the efforts to maintain the custom codes on your newer landscape is also going to be high. So
Hmm.
you need to be very very careful on
Hmm.
identifying that kind of processes and make sure the custom codes, the heavy reliability on the custom codes are, taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
So I
With
think
that,
the
yeah,
over reliance on custom code. So there's some people the users are so much reliant on the custom code and
uh,
that it results eventually in higher maintenance. and
Exactly.
efforts post
Exactly.
migration. So I think the exercise, every big organization needs to do the exercise of the pros and cons of
Mhm.
whether to go for brownfield or greenfield and list down the cost, because maybe you may save 2 3 months in brownfield, but the long term running cost can be higher with
Correct.
brownfield. But
Depending
if
on,
you,
depending on the amount of customizations and custom code
yes,
involved. So
yes, yes. Yeah.
need to
And then
be
there are legal elements as well. So if there are legal changes that are part of the custom code which you can't get rid of immediately, then
correct,
you have.
correct. Like for example, an add-on. Like if you have implemented an add-on on ECC and that add-on works well only on ECC, then in that case, yeah, you'll have some trouble.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So let's discuss more about Greenfield, and
yeah,
then we take an example of a custom code, uh, assuming that we are going brownfield, and how do we address that?
sure. So for for greenfield, it's like it's like you have been given a greenfield to play around, so you can redesign your existing business process which are not optimized on your older landscape in the most efficient way, and you have the freedom to do it. So, so the opportunity for you to optimize your business process using the latest available tools and trends that are in the market. For example, if you want to do some planning improvements in your planning, then you can use AI to give you stats or forecast for your planning. So those kind of improvements can be brought to your existing process so that your
Hmm.
process is optimized. So that's the main and foremost, factor.
Yeah.
Say
Process optimization.
yes,
Yeah.
consider when you want to go for greenfield implementation. So let's
Hmm.
see the second and little less important thing would be to use the new features that are available on your S4 HANA. Like you might have, I mean, the customers might have users who are very well accustomed to the SAP GUI, and they might feel comfortable, more comfortable doing things on SAP GUI, but if you look for
Hmm. Correct.
S4 HANA, all the applications that are there in SAP GUI UI is also there in Fiori UI. It's a part
Hmm.
of the Fiori gateway. So the chances of the users, the chance for users to adapt to new features like all the Fiori apps are high, and slowly they will start liking it because they don't have to log into GUI, or they don't even have to log into any machine to do
But
the
that this GUI Fiori thing is true with brownfield or greenfield, regardless. They have to use Fiori. So it's a question of when,
yeah.
because it goes through the training process and everything. Because this is true in both cases, no?
Yeah, it's true in both cases, but for standard applications, you already have the Fiori applications, which replaces the standard GUI applications. So those are
Hmm.
like readily available. You can do it. But in case
Hmm.
of brownfield, and if you want to have if you have a custom SAP GUI screen, and if you want to bring it to the Fiori, then there is a small amount of work. You have to convert that into an OData service, and then get a help of a Fiori UI5 developer to set up the UI screens for you. All
Hmm.
that, right? And that's applicable for Greenfield also. But in case of Greenfield, you have the freedom to design this UI in a faster approach, like
Hmm.
optimized process approach. So,
Hmm.
but in case of brownfield, you're already having a business process and you're trying to adopt it, so you don't have the flexibility of reading
Hmm.
the whole process. So
Yes.
yeah, so
Yes.
that's the right. And obviously, you can the next thing I see is there could be a lot of legacy issues. For example, you may have redundant configurations. You may have some outdated customizations, which you never know that they are outdated, and there could be
Yeah.
some inefficient searches, inefficient queries, Everything can be replaced. When you move your when you move to the S4.
When you adopt Greenfield,
Yes,
then
when you
all the legacy redundant can be just ignored because you can
correct.
starting fresh. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And then the next thing I'll talk about is for the future readiness. So UCC has been there for quite a long time, but it's not that future ready product. It cannot talk to AI or anything. So for that to happen, you have to have some special connectors to connect to different engines. But in case of S4, be it brownfield or greenfield, you have the option to connect your SAP application server to any kind of digital applications or any kind of integrations to third party is also possible. So it is already a future ready system. So
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about, oh, I have this business process which will not allow me to do this. Since it is a greenfield,
Mm.
you can set up the business process such a way that it is future ready and scalable at the same time.
Yeah. For example, if you take an example of advanced ATP, so
Yes.
if in ECC they are already using ATP with some bespoke development to cover the available to promise features like
Mhm.
prioritizing customers, they build a Z functionality to prioritize based on delivery priority, let's say. Now with advanced ATP, all the back order processing, everything is so standard and so much available for you, so you can straight away go there. So I
Yeah.
remember that we were doing an implementation exercise for a fit to standard workshop, and then this advanced ATP was discussed, and then we realized, oh, advanced ATP already provides all of that. So on a fresh implementation, these are some of the benefits that we can make use of. And
Absolutely.
so I think we understood in summary what you've explained.
Yeah.
The benefits are opportunity for process optimization, elimination of all the legacy issues,
Hmm.
and adaptation of new features,
Hmm.
and enhanced user experience, and I think lastly scalability and
Scalability.
future. So these are some of the benefits of Greenfield.
Yes.
And in terms of cons, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think one is the cost is slightly higher, but this is debatable. Higher
Uh,
cost,
no, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't debate it. For sure, it is higher cost
higher.
only. Yeah, yeah.
No, but for example, if somebody has adopted brownfield
Okay.
and all I mean, I have seen projects where
Hmm.
they choose brownfield, they do so many workshops, and then they realize, oh no, though, so we can't go ahead with brownfield because there's so much complexity.
Yes.
So all this 3 years of 3 to 5 months of workshop go, and
Hmm.
then they go on take that approach. So I mean,
To, yeah.
definitely, but on the books, on the paper, it looks like greenfield is much more a longer project. But
Uh-huh.
brown needs to be very adequately measured from start because
Correct. The planning has to be perfect for doing a brownfield.
yeah, because
Otherwise,
I
you
think
end up incurring more cost,
yeah,
just like a greenfield. Like you will think this process is going to work in brown. I mean, in the
because
new.
in brownfield the key factor data migration becomes the primemost key factor, urgent, like it
Yeah.
has to be done initially. But in
Yeah.
greenfield you get time. In greenfield you get time for the data migration, do all the mapping, and then eventually you have to do the data migration. So that's
Yeah.
why it's a choice. Don't can we not adopt hybrid, like in some
You,
cases?
yeah, you have the selective data transfer. That's another option to explore. Like you
uh,
can have you can only go for, let's say, you have like 5 or 6 departments on your ERP. Like let's say,
okay.
for example, HR, and let's say you want to go with HR S4 upgrade for HR alone. Then in that case, you can do it for HR first, and then
Hmm.
leave all the other business processes in the ECC itself, like your P2P and OTC. And once the HR implementation is stable, then you can pick and choose, the next module to go to S4.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So I
awesome.
think based on what we've discussed there are key considerations for
Mhm.
decisions. So if you want to adopt brownfield, I mean, correct me.
Yeah.
If I think if it's ideal if you want a faster upgrade with minimum business disruption.
Yes.
You have a heavily customized ECC system, which
Mhm.
means that your system is so bespoke that S/4HANA can't replace it.
Yeah.
And you need to preserve the historical data. That
Mhm.
is one consideration.
For
And cost and time. So obviously, cost and time is again, it
yeah.
depends. You can end up doing something. So it depends. You need a very skilled S/4HANA architects, resources to make sure that do all the workshops initially. And for
Abs-
Greenfield, I think it is ideal if you aim to transform your business processes. Most
Correct.
like the processes are very much different, and then you adopt to new processes
Yes.
and best practices. Your existing system is overly complex. You want to get rid of your overly complex system, bespoke developments, and then you start fresh.
Right. Right. That's
And you're ready to invest a longer implementation. So
obvious. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
for me, Greenfield is more cleaner.
Yeah.
Uh, Brownfield is more complex, but you can save some cost on Brownfield.
Yeah, I would say Greenfield takes time, but it will be most efficient, and ROI will be much more in Greenfield than in Brownfield.
Hmm.
That's my take on it because you're designing your business process with all the latest tools that you have, which are provided by SAP or any third party, and you can even
Hmm.
connect your ML engine, AI engine to do some key decisions on your business. Um,
Hmm.
so from right from start, you can design your business process to be future proof, so that
Yeah.
it gives you good yield for your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think in the interest of time, we'll just give 5 minutes, 5, 10 minutes to
Okay.
just take an example, and
Okay.
then we are happy to end the podcast. And I hope the users are enjoying. So let's take one example. Let's say we are going brownfield, okay?
Okay. Okay.
And there is a bespoke development which
Okay.
uses custom ABAP programs and
Right.
Z tables to calculate prices dynamically. Okay.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
this logic is heavily integrated into the sales order process. Now,
Okay.
suppose you have chosen to do a brownfield. So, how
Okay.
would you take this change? What are the things that you would have to do in your new S/4HANA system?
So there are three steps to it. Okay, I'll go with the
Mhm.
first one. You need to assess your existing code because the code being a custom code, you need to make modifications so that the code is code can be executed in S4 without any hassle, right? So for that, you need to analyze your custom code. There are tools provided by SAP itself,
Mhm.
such as you have the custom code migration tool, and you have the ATC, which is ABAP Test Cockpit,
Mhm.
where you can choose the profile as migrate to S4, so that it will tell you what are the things that you need to change in your existing code for it to be
Nice.
S4 ready. For it to be
Oh,
S4.
great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, for example, like we touched this point when we started with the brownfield. So I was telling you, right, there are tables which got changed from between ECC and S4. So,
Yeah.
so let's say if you have referred that table in any one of your select query, or or in your insert, or your in your
Mm.
DB operations, then you
Yeah,
may
yeah, yeah.
replace all those tables to the newer tables, right? And if you're doing it only for the select, you can also use the CDS views that are available in S4. So which will run much more faster than actually running a query on the table. Then the
Mm-hmm.
second thing you need to do is you need to classify your code that needs to be deleted, adopted, and read and assess. So once you do that, you have completed your assessment on your custom code. The next step you do is to evaluate your logic. Like you can just reevaluate your logic, because let's say there could be a logic where you might have written a nested loop like four levels,
Mm-hmm.
five levels. those can be replaced with loopert, with group by, and functionality in the new S4. So those kind of logic analysis is very, very important. So you need to make sure your check table dependencies are there. You need to make sure, or if you are calling any BAPIs or any external APIs, so you need to make sure those are still, usable from your S4. And then you also need to evaluate any dependencies that you have for the logics to work. For example, you may have some master data in your ECC, which will help build a logic, and that means that master data is dependent for you for your logic, and that means you need to bring that master data. So you need to know you need to have everything on your finger.
Yeah. So I think as you mentioned, like replace existing table with CDS views. So
Yes,
for the audience, like for example, the existing table could be VBPA, which is Sales Document Partner Table. But
right.
with CDS view, it would be something like I underscore Sales Document Partner. So if there is a logic written already in the legacy code, which is like, let's say, for example, select star from VBPA,
Yeah, yeah.
it's this logic, then that will change to select star from
I
I.
underscore sales
Yeah.
order.
So CDS view is also using select queries and all that, but you will
Yeah,
have to make use of the new tables, understand the custom
correct.
logic, and make sure all the data exists in the new views, then run it. But I think that only you can do once you have most of the configuration, standard configuration moved
Correct.
Brownfield
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
and done. Okay,
Yeah. And
good.
then you can also remediate your custom code. The third step will be to remediate your custom code
Hmm.
to comply with the S4 HANA data models, and to comply with the S4 HANA programming guidelines. So
Hmm.
you can use the new ABAP syntax in case if you're doing if you're doing large
Hmm.
data volume processing, you can use filters, reduce operators, and you can use for loops, right? So
Hmm.
that can
Yeah.
be fixed, so that your code runs faster and cleaner.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's the
That's
three
good.
steps. Yeah, that's the three steps I would do. And based on my experience, I have done this before for
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
my clients. So they had it's not a pricing relevant logic, but it's for a counting. Like at the end of the day or end of the year, they will do counting for their inventory. It's on the inventory.
Yeah. Physical accounting. Yeah.
Yeah, so they had a custom process for US and Mexico. One of the customer, they had a custom process, different for US and different for Mexico, and it's a complete custom process. So this tool that I was talking, right, the custom code migration app and ATC, it helped us to lift and shift the codes, making sure it follows the S4 HANA's data model and S4 HANA's standard programming guidelines. So
Okay. Nice. Yeah. And then I think once you've done then your standard steps of regression testing and that the code is not
that's
impacted your
that's
and then all
that's
those things
obvious.
should
I
be
didn't want to
okay.
state the
Good.
obvious. So,
Okay,
so
good. I think so. It's a it was a good discussion, Dinath, and I think people might have just understood a little bit because we can't cover too much technical details in such a short time. But we will continue to do more such podcasts. Maybe next
sure.
topic would be something more interesting in this same space. And thanks everyone for watching. And people who are watching right now, my request is to, if you can, please like and subscribe. The reason is that we can continue to do more and more some interesting videos. It will encourage us to do more. And thank you for watching.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.